Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going deep, really deep, into the science of anesthesia. We're going to unpack what it might be doing to our brains long after we wake up.
Have you ever had that feeling? You know the one. You're waking up from surgery and you're just not all there yet. Everything feels kind of fuzzy, slow, almost like your brain is wrapped in cotton. Well, that very common experience raises a massive question we need to talk about.
And hey, if you've felt that, you are definitely not alone. This whole brain fog thing after surgery, it's a real, documented phenomenon, and it affects millions of people. For the longest time, we just kind of accepted it, part of the deal. But now, scientists are really digging in, racing to figure out what's actually going on.
Now, this brain fog, it actually has a proper medical name. It's called Postoperative Cognitive Dysfunction, or POCD for short. And let's be super clear, this isn't just about feeling a bit tired or groggy. We are talking about a real, measurable dip in your ability to remember things, to concentrate, and for some people, it can drag on for weeks or even months.
Okay, so that naturally leads to the big question, right? Is this a risk for everybody, or are some of us way more likely to experience this than others?
So just how big is this risk, really? Well, a huge international study gave us a pretty startling number. Get this, nearly 10% of patients over the age of 60 still had a measurable cognitive decline 3 full months after a major surgery. That's a long time.
But does that apply to everyone? I mean, what about younger people? Well, a 2019 study looked at just that, young, healthy adults, and found something totally different. For them, basically no lingering cognitive effects. And this right here, this is a crucial point. When we're talking about adults, the number one biggest risk factor for this brain fog isn't the surgery. It's not even the specific drug. It's age.
All right, so age is a huge piece of the puzzle. We've got that. But it can't be the only thing going on, right? I mean, we can't exactly change how old a patient is. So the next logical question is, can we change the anesthetics we use to better protect their brain?
And it turns out the answer seems to be a big yes. A recent study from 2023 put this to the test. They compared standard opioid-based anesthesia with an opioid-free version. And the results, they were pretty amazing. The opioid-free group woke up faster, sure, but check this out. 90% of them had good cognitive scores just 5 minutes later. Compare that to only 60% in the standard group. That's a huge difference, and it shows the choice of drug has a real, almost immediate effect on how clearly you wake up.
So what's going on here? Why would one drug lead to a much clearer recovery than another? Well, scientists believe it all boils down to one powerful biological process, neuroinflammation. Basically, inflammation inside the brain itself.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. Research is showing that different types of anesthetics seem to have totally different effects on this inflammation. You've got the inhaled gases, like sevoflurane, which might actually be pro-inflammatory. They could be stirring things up in there. But then you have the intravenous drugs, the IV ones like propofol or the dexmedetomidine we just mentioned, and they might actually be anti-inflammatory, helping to calm everything down.
Okay, so we've got the brain fog, we've got this idea of inflammation, different drugs, and it all leads to the one question I think is on everyone's mind, the really scary one. Is this short-term temporary dip a warning sign? Could anesthesia actually be the thing that pushes a vulnerable brain over the edge into something permanent, like dementia?
All right, this is where things get really intense and honestly, pretty controversial. The science here is anything but settled. So, to really get a grip on this debate, let's put 2 major recent studies head-to-head, and you'll see they came to completely opposite conclusions.
First up in the This Is Concerning corner, a big study from 2021 out of Korea looked at nationwide data from over 15,000 people, and they found a pretty significant link. After general anesthesia, people had a 36% higher risk of dementia, a 52% higher risk of Alzheimer's, even a 64% higher risk for vascular dementia. I mean, those are some pretty big numbers. You can't just ignore that.
But hold on, just when you start to get really worried, an even bigger review comes out. This was a massive meta-analysis. It bundled together the data from 8 huge studies, and it came to the exact opposite conclusion. It found that the type of anesthesia used did not increase the long-term risk of dementia or Alzheimer's.
So what gives? How can 2 huge scientific efforts find the complete opposite thing?
Well, a big part of the problem is it's just incredibly hard to separate the effect of the anesthesia from the reason for the surgery itself. Think about it. Someone needing major heart surgery is in a totally different boat than a healthy person getting a minor procedure. Untangling all those factors is a massive challenge. So for right now, the bottom line is this. A direct causal link, actual proof that anesthesia causes dementia, well, it's still really controversial, and it's just not proven.
So to really grasp why there might even be a risk at all, we've got to look under the hood. What's actually happening inside our brains during and after all this?
Think of it like a chain reaction. It all starts with the surgery, which is a huge stress on your body. That stress can actually make the blood-brain barrier, which is like this super tight security gate for your brain, a little bit leaky. And when that happens, the brain's own little immune cells, they're called microglia, they sense something's wrong and go on high alert. They basically flip a switch, and when they do, they release a flood of these inflammatory molecules, creating that state of neuroinflammation we were talking about.
Here's a simpler way to picture it. The surgery is like a 5-alarm fire bell going off in your body. The brain's immune cells, these microglia, are the emergency responders. Now, in an older, more vulnerable brain, these responders can sometimes overreact. They rush in to protect everything, but in doing so, they can inadvertently cause some collateral damage. And that damage? That's the inflammation that can lead to the cognitive fog.
Okay, let's pull all this together. What are the key takeaways? 1. That post-op brain fog, or POCD, is absolutely a real thing. 2. For adults, age is, without a doubt, the #1 risk factor. 3. The type of anesthetic we use might really matter for that immediate short-term recovery, probably because of how it affects inflammation. 4. And this is a big one. That long-term link to dementia is still super debated and is not proven. And finally, let's not forget, the huge stress of the surgery itself plays a massive role in this whole picture.
So if there's one thing to take away, it's this. You can't just point the finger at the anesthetic drug. It's way more complicated than that. It's this complex dance between your age, your overall health going in, and the sheer physical stress of the surgery. That brain fog isn't caused by one single thing. It happens right where all those factors collide.
And that leaves us with a pretty huge question for the future, doesn't it? As medicine gets better and better, allowing us to live longer and undergo these incredible complex procedures at older ages, the next great challenge is going to be figuring out how we do all of that while still protecting the one thing that truly makes us us, our brain.